what I want to do to start us off is I would love for you to type into the chat, what does being present mean? Just type a few words into the chat. What does it mean to be present? Oh, my mom's here, and hopefully my grandparents are watching with us. That's cool. That'll be awesome for them. So yeah, type into the chat a few words. What do you feel being present means? Stephanie's saying, I do my best and have a ways to go. Yeah, me too, my friend. Jessica's here from Alaska. Awesome. Welcome, welcome. So I know for me, being present is really about the word itself. It's hard not to use it as you describe it, right? But having focus within the moment that I'm within. And it's not, getting caught up in the future. It's not getting stuck in our past, but having the ability to really have our focus be in the moment that we're in. Yeah, Wendy's saying, taking time to be in the now, learning every day. Good for you, Wendy. Stephanie's saying, in my senses and in my environment, not in my head. Ooh, that's good. Hold on to that thought too, because that's going to be really important. We're going to talk about that. Christina's saying, taking in the moment and surrounding area of where you are. Beautiful. Being fully engaged in what I'm doing in the moment. Yes, Hannah. Beautiful. Shirley saying, awareness of the moment. Listening, not just hearing. Very cool, Mary. I love that. And Jessica's saying, be there, keep your mind focused on what's happening. Yes, all of these are awesome. Good. I think we're all on the same page. So when we're in that present moment, we have so much more ability to actually do something about the present moment. So next question is, why is it important to be in the present moment? Like, why would we want to be focused on the present? Why don't we want to be completely involved in the past and what has already happened, or obsessing about our future? Why would that be important to us? I know for me, it really helps me to have more peacefulness, because I don't know about you, but if I'm stuck in my past, very often it's not necessarily doing good things for me. It's not thoughts of the past just kind of reminiscing. Very often those thoughts of the past are, oh, what did I say to that person? And was I rude to this person? Or did I make the right choice here? Did I make the right choice there? Or if I'm in the future, again, very often it's this sense of kind of anxiousness. Who out there kind of is with me so far? You sometimes feel anxious if you're in the future. Maybe going back to the past is kind of more just like kind of some self-abuse kind of stuff, self-judgment. Wendy's saying you could lose that moment or ones you love at this moment. Whew, yeah, so true, Wendy. If we're not present in that moment, beautiful things might be happening around us, but if our attention isn't there, we might just skip right over it. Shirley saying, oh yeah, I think that's to the question of who's with me so far. Yeah, Jessica, so you can remember what you are doing, learn new things, or knowing not to do that again. Yes, perfect. Very often when we're teaching classes, even when I was teaching more technical classes in haircutting, the first thing that we would do is do something to try to get people to be more present within the class. Because if we are focused on the past, if we are focused on the future, we're not focused in the moment. And so we might miss those things, Jessica. We might miss those things that we could take in and learn. So great. Christina saying past equals paranoia, future equals anxiety. Very cool. I like that a lot. So let's think about what are the things that keep us in the past and in the future. What keeps drawing our attention away from the present moment? Because we want to identify what are those things that get us stuck in that past, like Christina saying, in that kind of paranoid state, or what draws the mind into the future where we do experience that anxiety. Shirley saying present in the moment is more exploratory. Yeah, for sure. Mary saying the past cannot be changed, altered, or redone. Looking in the rearview mirror, forgive and move on. Oof, good one, Mary. Love that. So There's one aspect of what draws you into the past or what draws you into the future is actually part of your natural inherent strengths. One great thing that you guys could do for yourself, I gotta stop saying you guys, you all could do for yourself is you can go and you can find a book called The Strength Finder. And they have the Strength Finder 2.0 now. I think that came out actually quite a while ago. But within the book, The Strength Finder, there's this great perspective, which is when we focus on the benefits of these natural inherent strengths that we have, we can use them for really great things. Now, the other thing that the Strengths Finder really helps us to understand is with every strength, there's also an Achilles heel. Within the Strengths Finder, I don't remember the title of the exact strength that people do tend to learn really well from the past and learn from those lessons of the past. But there is a certain strength that tends to go back and like, okay, what are the pieces of the puzzle here, and how can I use them for the future? There is also a strength which I particularly am very strong in. It's like one of my top 3, which is called futuristic. And the futuristic strength is that we're always looking out to the future and envisioning the potentials for the future. And so if we do that in a really beneficial way, fantastic. It can be a huge strength of ours. Same thing with the people that tend to do have that natural talent to look back and learn from the past. The Achilles heel of both of them is because it's so natural to us, sometimes we don't even recognize that we're there. It's so natural and it's so innate to us to live in that, like rehearsing the past and looking for the lessons, that we don't even recognize that that's where our focus is. Same thing for me. I can spend big portions of my day very much unconsciously continuing to go into the future. Oh, what's next? What could I do differently? Planning and looking ahead. So it could be that if you're spending a lot of time in either of those places, it's one of your natural innate strengths. It's not a dysfunction. It's not a problem with you. It's actually something that you could lean into as a strength. Again, what the Strengths Finder teaches us is that you have to be cautious that that strength does not become an Achilles heel. So we need to have things that help us to prevent us from going to that place. Yeah, Christina, that's great. Trying so hard to learn from mistakes we have made in order to obtain an even better future. So that goes along with not necessarily, let's make this clear too. Living in the present does not necessarily mean that we can't go back to our history and say, what did I learn back there? What can I bring forward into this moment and into my future? And it definitely does not mean that we can't be planning for the future, right? Casper is saying our past makes us the people who we are. Right now, it gives us strength and wisdom and discipline. Beautiful. Yes. And again, Casper, I love how you said that. I'm actually going to put that on screen because I think that's really beautiful said. This is a place that we're using it in a really beautiful and healthy way, right? It's if we get stuck there and we don't kind of consciously make the choice to do exactly what you're saying here, my friend, which is to look at it like, oh, what did I learn? How did I grow? How did this give me strength? How did it bring wisdom? So beautiful. I love this. So Shirley's asking, so is it just reeling that strength in? Yes, perfect. It is monitoring when it stops serving us. So one of the laws of the mind that I know that we've talked about in the past, because we talk about this very often here on Wellness Wednesday. And by the way, if this is your first Wellness Wednesday, or if you're not joining us often, just put a yes or a me in the chat. I'd love to see who is here kind of for the first time. But we talk about a lot here on Wellness Wednesday that there are laws of the mind, how the mind works. One of the laws of the mind is it can only consciously focus on one thing at a time. Multitasking is your mind jumping from thing to thing to thing very quickly. It's not simultaneously focusing on two things because that's actually completely impossible. So the conscious mind can only place its focus into one thing at a time. So if we are consciously putting that focus into how does this strength support me and putting focus into how we want to utilize that strength, then we don't really have to worry about avoiding the pitfalls as much because we're choosing the path. But we're going to talk about in a minute how to kind of manage those pitfalls, because we can't, some people say that only 5% of our day is conscious decision making. Everything else is just subconscious pattern. So depending on what you read, might be 70%, might be 80%, 95%, but a good portion of our day is kind of just subconscious patterns and habits. And then there's a very small part of our day that we're making conscious choices. And I just want to welcome Shakila from London, UK. Thank you for joining us. Jessica, thank you so much for joining us. Awesome. We got a lot of people here that have been here quite a few times too. Shirley's saying, oh good, I'm not failing at multitasking. Yeah, no, it's actually not a real beneficial way. That's a whole nother Wellness Wednesday. We should talk about that. So another reason that the mind likes to go to the past and into the future is our natural protective circuitry. Because again, one of the benefits of going back to the past is learning. Hi, Cheryl, welcome. One of the things that the mind wants to do as it goes back to the past is it wants to look at what are the patterns, what are the processes that have happened before so that it can utilize them. Again, if we're consciously doing this, it can be a really great thing. What ends up happening is the mind's doing it in a protective way. It's also doing it in a way to make things easier, because the mind loves to preserve energy and make things as easy and comfortable as possible. So it might look back and it say, oh, okay, here's how we usually in the past have handled these types of situations. So subconsciously, it's processing and it's saying, oh, okay, we're in a similar situation. So we're going to do that same thing, because that's what's easy. That's what's safe, because we know the kind of result we get from it. Even if the result was not a favorable result, the mind still sees that going back to habit, what we've done in the past in these certain situations, is still the easiest path. I hope this makes sense. I hope this is clicking, because this is really important, because we get really upset with ourselves when we go back to these past habits. We think, oh, why do I keep doing this? It never, gives me the results that I want. Well, it's because the mind's natural habit is to look back to that past so that it can choose the easiest path, which is our habits and our processes. The other part of it is that the mind wants to go to the future. This is where the storytelling starts to happen. If you tell yourself a lot of stories throughout the day, I want you to put a 1 within the chat. Just put a number 1 into the chat if you tell yourself a lot of stories, or give a thumbs up, or put a heart in there. So the mind wants to tell stories about the future and be concerned about these stories of the future, what might happen, how we might interact with the future. Again, because it thinks it's helping to protect us. And to do that, it needs a beginning, it needs a middle, and then it needs an ending. So if we are in the process, if we're going through the process and we don't know the future, the mind starts to make up the future. And so that's why it starts to focus on the future, is because it wants to know, okay, how could this possibly come out? And here's the sad thing. Typically, it's going to choose the worst case scenario of the future, because what it's trying to do is protect you. It can't really protect you if it's not dreaming up of all these terrible things that might actually happen. Shirley's saying, oh, sure. Christina's given a heart. Wendy's got a 1 in there. Hannah says, yes, so many stories. And like I said, I hope, again, through explaining this, because I love to give you the why behind things, because then we can stop beating ourselves up about it. Because I know for me, when I get stuck in those head stories again, which don't feel good usually, because like I said, typically we tend to tell ourselves the worst version of the story to try to protect ourselves. I start going through all these like, oh man, you're doing it again. You're telling yourself these crappy stories. Why do you keep beating yourself up, doing these horrible things? And it's like, you know what? It's not that. It's not purposeful. It's not like your body is trying to kick you in the teeth. It's trying to protect you. And it's doing what it knows how to do. So again, we have to develop some type of habits and processes to change these things. And I want to just come back to this real quick. Mary's asking, multitasking is not all bad. Can you let a color process and start a haircut on another client? That's a great question, Mary. And so my answer to that, just right off the bat, is of course, yeah. Like, having multiple services happening and things like that, that's not necessarily what we mean by multitasking as far as it being a not good habit. So because, yeah, maybe you can handle multiple processes. What becomes a challenge is trying to have the mind focus on multiple things simultaneously. So let's say I'm at home, I'm writing an article for a magazine or something, and I'm also letting my phone kind of blow up and respond to text messages as I'm trying to write the article. Oh, whoops, I just saw a Facebook, alert, like I should check that Facebook message. That's the kind of multitasking that is incredibly unhelpful, because the mind's just trying to jump around all these little things. But yeah, if you have a system that you feel comfortable with for multiple services, that's fantastic. Shirley, this is like jumping to the end of a book. Yeah, exactly. And to the end of a book that we actually don't know how it ends. We're just using history and past experience to write an ending. Like I said, unfortunately, not the best case scenario ending, typically the worst case scenario ending. So what do we do about this? This is where we start to have the opportunity to do something different if we can get ourselves present. So I want you to do a couple of things with me here. One of the best things that you can utilize to bring yourself back into the present moment is your senses, because we have the mind is the thing that tends to, and especially the subconscious mind, is the part that tends to draw us into the past or keep us stuck in the future. Or, sorry, keep us stuck in the future or draw us into. Okay, let's rewind. Keep us stuck in the past or draw our attention into the future. That sounded much better, didn't it? So the mind, once it starts to get into that, we kind of get out of this. We get out of the body. And so this is why embodiment coaching or body coaching and things like that have become such an important part of coaching. Because when we can get someone back into their body, we can get them into the present moment. And there's so much intelligence that's within the body that doesn't happen within the mind. So do this with me real quick. I want you to just pause for a few moments, and I want you to look around wherever you're at right now, whether it's in your salon, whether it's at home in your house, maybe you're just kind of sitting in your car waiting at a stoplight or something and just listening. But look around, and I want you to visually connect to two things within your space that you usually don't take notice of. Maybe it's even a trinket that you put up on a shelf that you're like, oh yeah, I forgot I had that. So notice two things in your room, and then type those two things into the chat. What are the two things that you notice within your room? Again, just two things that maybe you don't typically notice within the space. So visually, you scan around. So for me, as I'm doing it, it's actually I have a little like, it's actually not Buddha, but it's what we always call like the laughing Buddha. But so I have that figurine up on one of my shelves, but it's kind of tucked behind some of my cameras. And I don't always notice it. So I just took notice of it as I looked around my room. Hi from Murcia, Spain. Yeah, Jessica, come back. You can definitely do this at a later time. So that's for me one of the things I noticed. And then actually right above it is another camera lens. It's a super old camera lens that I kind of forgot I had. So what is it for you? Pop it into the chat. What are two things that you look around your room and you're like, oh yeah, I'm just noticing this again? Or if you're in your salon watching, what are two things? So just pop that into the chat. Maybe it's taking a moment for my chat to refresh. Here we go. Shirley says an old camera and Chinese medicine book. Nice. I'm sure if a couple more will pop in, maybe in the chats. Or Cheryl's saying an Eiffel Tower figurine and dried dahlias. Beautiful. So as we start to scan around and we start to take notice of these things, What's happening? Oh, you're coming back into the present moment. You're consciously taking the mind and saying, hey, bring some focus to this. Paper towels and a zebra key holder for Christina are two things. I love that. A zebra key holder. That's probably kind of cute. So by drawing the eyes, by drawing the senses into something in your space, you are going to tell the mind, hey, I want to be present. This is something called a pattern interrupt. Sometimes we use it in coaching with coaching clients so that if the mind's just kind of freaking out and it's going here and it's going there, we might say like, hey, you know what? What are two things that you didn't notice in your room recently? Why would you ask me that? I don't know, just tell me two things. And it just gets us back into bringing focus into the mind. Katie's saying point shoes and a succulent. Hannah's random things on my bookshelf, a camera and container of seeds. Lots of cameras. We must be all into photography. Beautiful. So now do it one more time. Now I'm going to stop talking for a moment and I want you to listen and I want you to hear two sounds that you didn't notice before because you've been focused on probably my voice. So I'm just going to shut up for the next like 10 seconds or so. And I want you to try to hear two things that you didn't even notice were happening. All right. Pop it into the chat. What did you hear? So for me, I heard the leaves rustling outside of my window. It's a beautiful day outside, so I have my window open. Hopefully you can't hear too much of it. And I have a fan in my room, kind of moving that air around within my room, and I took notice of that. So again, by bringing our focus into senses, we can bring the mind into the present moment. Cool. Tori's saying the AC is running and my dog is chewing on the blanket. Katie's saying space heater and the shower's going. Air purifier going. Cat snoring. My mom's saying the refrigerator. So I'm guessing you're sitting in the kitchen. So again, these are ways to just bring us back into the present moment. Now, this isn't necessarily going to be a solution or like a cure for anything. But again, the idea is, especially when the mind is kind of going through, oh, we're so into the future, we're so into the past, this is a great way to just bring us back into our senses. Christina saying door knocking and electricity. Shirley saying cat fountain humming and cat walking across the floor. Rad. Tara saying the dryer's running, someone booming their music in the car outside. Cool, cool. And here's the thing, this is kind of a neat exercise too, because hopefully what you're also noticing is all of the little things that are happening around you that you're not consciously aware of. The interesting thing is subconsciously, you're always kind of picking up these things, but it's rare that we take time to consciously and do this. The one other thing that I'll give you, and not that you would do it right this second, you can do it right this second if you want to, but you can also feel, what do you feel? So it might be like, oh, I feel like cool air on my skin. Or it might be something more internal. It might be like, oh, like I kind of feel some stress or some tightness in my chest or like some tightness in my shoulders. Or I'm feeling kind of like that tightness in my wrist because I cut hair all day. So bringing attention and focus into the senses is a beautiful way to get you back into the present moment. The other thing that is a wonderful way to get you back into the present moment is the breath. And put a me in the chat if you watched the episode a few weeks ago with my friend Sean Float and I, because we taught you some breath work techniques. And we're going to come back to those because the breath is a beautiful way to bring us back into the present moment. How many of you out there have tried meditation before? I know I do a lot of meditation personally, but meditation is really just bringing the mind's focus into something. And so that's very often why the first step of meditation classes or meditation teachings is focus on the breath, because it gives the mind something to bring its attention to. Also, the breath has direct access to our nervous system, and we've talked about this in the past. Tara's saying, how did you know I'm wearing a wrist brace at this moment? Yeah, and it's touchy stuff for hairdressers, right? But the other thing about the breath is it has a direct connection to our autonomic nervous system. And if you've watched in the past, we've talked about this in the past before too. Because if we are in the sympathetic side of our nervous system, which is that fight, flight, freeze, appease kind of like, kind of place, it's really hard to be present, because in that state, in that really heightened state, the natural process of the mind is to go into our primitive mind for protection. And so it's really hard to be present if we're in that state of anxiousness. It's also kind of tough to be present if we're almost so sleepy that we can't get the mind to focus on something. So one of the things that you can always do is bring the focus to the breath. I want you to try one little thing with me, which is short breath holds. And we did this a couple weeks ago in the class with Sean. This has become my absolute most favorite breathing technique for getting me back into the present moment. And I start to feel very, very grounded by this. So all we're going to do is you're going to take a natural breath in through the nose and let it release back out through the nose. And after you release the air out through the nose, you're going to just reach up and you're going to hold your nose for 5 seconds. So it's a natural breath in through the nose. Let it back out through the nose. Pinch and hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then release. And just breathe normal. So just take a few natural, normal breaths now. We're going to do it 2 more times. So when you're ready, take a natural breath in. Release the breath back out through the nose. Pinch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Breathe natural. One more time. Just 2 breaths in and out through the nose. Do it one more time with me. Natural breath in through the nose. Release it out through the nose. Pinch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just check in. How do you feel right now? Just after 3 quick breath holds, what do you feel like? Type it into the chat. For me, those short breath holds really calm my nervous system. I get kind of like, I really feel like my whole body just kind of sinks in a really beautiful way, not in like a heavy way, but I just kind of feel like it drops and I get grounded. So what's happening with these short breath holds is your exhale is the part of your breath that signals the parasympathetic side of the nervous system. So what you're doing by holding your nose after you exhale is you're kind of prolonging the exhale in a way. So where a natural exhale might just be like 4 seconds, by adding that short breath hold of 5 more seconds, it really extends that exhale. So it extends the time that the body is signaling into the parasympathetic, which is the calming side of your nervous system. So Shirley's saying shoulders are more relaxed. Chutamiya, I'm sorry, I hope I'm saying your name properly, saying relaxed. So yeah, those short breath holds are fantastic, and they do it quicker than almost any other breathing technique I've been turned on to. And that's a newer technique I've learned through Oxygen Advantage. I just got certified as a trainer for them, and same as my friend Sean Float. And just while we're on this, I want to bring this up because Sean and I think we mentioned last time that we are doing a class. If you are interested, we're doing a 6-session, 90 minutes per session. It's all on Zoom, but it's 6 sessions, 90 minutes per session, and it's a class working with the breath, but also tapping into body intelligence and also tapping into like how the breath supports your mental health, your physical health, your overall well-being and performance. It's going to be a really incredible class. We're only charging $75 for all 6 classes, and it's going to take place over the next 3 months. So it's November, December, and January. We're going to do 2 90-minute classes per month. So if you're interested, head to Moving into Harmony. That's Sean's website.com, breath, body, mind. And I'll leave that up there just for a minute if you need to take a screenshot or something. But if you want to join us, this is going to be such a great class. We made it super incredibly affordable, but we made it incredibly affordable because Sean and I have just been blown away with what we have learned through this practice and how it's helped us. This is coming from 2 people that have done a lot of breathwork practice in the past. So this is going to be a really fun class. Plus, you're going to get to touch into Sean's training as a Hatha yogi, his physical therapy background, my background in multiple brain integration. So anyway, if you want to join us, you can do that. So I want to take you through one more quick little breathing technique that is, again, just something really fun, super easy. Cool, Christina. I love that your dad taught you on breathing. That's fantastic. That's not something you hear very often. Shirley's saying she's looking forward to it. Awesome. So try this one other thing, and this is a fun one, but we're going to focus again on the out breath. So you're going to take a natural breath in through the nose. When you release the breath, I want you to take your finger and I want you to kind of hold it as if you're giving yourself a little mustache. So you're going to take a natural breath in through the nose. And then as you release the air out of the nose, I want you to see how soft you can make that breath touching your finger. Like almost like you can't even feel it. How soft. And do this in a way that try not to do it through restriction by trying to kind of like clamp down on the breath, but do it by releasing air just so gently. Like let those lungs and stuff just so gently deflate, almost like there's just a balloon that's just so like softly deflating. So try it. Just do it with me. Come on. I know it looks goofy, but try it. So natural breath in, and then just release the air from the nose so gently that you can't even barely feel it on your finger. And as I'm talking, keep doing it. Keep doing it. So after you do this a few times, what you're going to start to notice is you'll start to get almost hungry for the next breath. And this is actually a good thing because what you're starting to do is you're starting to build a little bit more carbon dioxide into your system. Believe it or not, most of us, because we have a quick and shallow breath, we're not preserving enough carbon dioxide in our bloodstream. Again, this is something new, awesome discovery through this oxygen advantage training, that we actually need a little bit more carbon dioxide within our blood because carbon dioxide is a vasodilator. It helps to dilate the different blood vessels. It helps to dilate the lungs. It actually helps to deliver the oxygen that's sometimes trapped in the hemoglobin in the blood. It needs carbon dioxide to release that oxygen into the tissues of the body. Higher carbon dioxide levels also trigger more of a response from the vagus nerve, which is the parasympathetic side. So just as you're doing that, as you start to feel like, oh, it's kind of like I almost want to feel like I want to take a deeper breath, if you can just make it subtle and keep relaxing into that sensation, it's actually incredibly beneficial for you health-wise. And this is some of the stuff that we're going to take you further into in that breathwork class. Christina, does that help with tiredness? Yes, it actually does. So you're going to feel kind of a relaxation sensation, but what the carbon dioxide also does, the extra carbon dioxide, it helps to create more stimulation of blood flow. So it'll actually increase blood flow to the mind, out to the fingertips and out to the toes. After you do this for a little bit, what's really cool is you'll actually feel your hands and your toes probably warm up just a little bit, because you're getting better circulation and your mind will get clearer. So a lot of times I wouldn't say it's going to help with tiredness as far as it's not going to like wake you up and make you amped up, because I think a lot of times that's what we're looking for, is we want to get amped up. But what it will do is it'll give you more focus. So hope that helps. And the final thing that it will kind of start to wrap up with is I want you to consider just for a moment, what are the things that you do that you just love for the sake of doing them? Shaquille is saying, very relaxing, but I'm going to fall asleep because it's nighttime in the UK. I'm glad you're here, Shaquilla. And this is actually, side note, I'm just going to sidebar because I saw your comment. Those couple exercises that I just gave you are also incredible for right before bedtime. So Shirley's saying she's getting the warm hands. Chudamia is saying she likes that. So awesome, awesome. So here's what I'd like you to do to kind of start to wrap up our day together. I want you to think about things that you enjoy doing just for the sake of doing them, not for necessarily you have to have a result from it, you have to produce something from it, but what are things that you love to do just for the sake of doing them? Like for me, yes. But for me, it is getting outside and taking a hike. When I'm out hiking, I don't need anything from it. And I feel super peaceful. I feel really happy. And sometimes it does take a little time into the hike. Maybe that first 10 or 15 minutes of the hike, I'm still kind of like up in my head, thinking about too many things. But what I notice is after I'm into my hike about 10, 15 minutes, all of a sudden, those other things, they kind of start to fade away. And my focus just becomes, oh, cool, look at the tree. Man, that smell of, especially during this time here in Oregon, the leaves are falling off the trees and they're starting to decay on the trail, and it's damp. And I don't know, maybe some of you live in areas too that you kind of have that fall weather where it's kind of damp and the leaves are decaying. It is one of my absolute favorite smells on the planet. So when I'm out hiking, my nose just kind of naturally goes to that smell. My eyes are going to the sights. My ears are super tuned into the sounds. Kathy's saying being in nature, and Tara saying being in nature. Yeah, I think nature is very often a beautiful place to find ourselves in that presence. Thanks for the love, Casper. Christina, you missed the fall. Where do you live that you don't get the fall? Type it into the chat where you're living that you don't get the fall. Oh, cool, Cheryl. You're saying the breathing techniques are similar to how I approach having Reiki. Beautiful. That's a great technique, too. Shaquille, you can always come back and rewatch the sessions on the YouTube and Facebook channel, so no worries. Yes, Shirley, fall is full of lovely scents for sure. So consider what things for you. Maybe it's painting. Maybe it's playing a guitar. Maybe it's cooking. Maybe it's playing in your garden. But these are the things that, if I tell you, do not come from me. Florida. Okay, good, Christine. You're in Florida. Awesome. But these are the things that help us to get into the present moment. Because typically, if we're finding that sense of peace, if we're finding that sense of joy, that happiness, without kind of this need for a specific result from things, Shirley saying painting, that's awesome. Then, that's because we're living in the present moment. I think that's why a lot of us like being out in nature. It's one of those few times that I really find that people get into that place where they're like just right in the present, not focused too far in the future, not worrying about the past. They're just in that moment. Tara's saying, I'm heading to Chimney Rock, North Carolina this weekend. What a beautiful area. Can't wait to see all the beautiful colors. Yeah, we were just in the Poconos just a few weeks ago. It's still beautiful. So that is kind of the third and final thing. So number one, if you are feeling out of the present moment, tune into your senses. Just look around your room. Actually, I've heard a couple people, including Sam himself and my friend Carlo Novoa, have a practice that first thing in the morning when they wake up, to bring themselves into the present moment, they do a practice that they look around the room. What are things they see? What are things they hear? What are what are the smells in the room? And just to get the senses tuned in and get present, so we can use the senses to get us into the present moment. Yeah, Shirley, go hiking. Maria, yes, it is the truth, my friend. Second is the breath. So the short breath holds, which is just natural breath in through the nose, out through the nose, then hold. Make sure you're doing the breath hold after the exhale, because we want to extend the exhale, not the inhale, because the inhale triggers more of the sympathetic side of the nervous system, which is the upside. That's the energy up kind of side of the nervous system. So we always want to do the breath holds on the exhale. And if 5 seconds is too long, if it starts to feel uncomfortable at all, do 3 seconds, do 2 seconds, no worries. Then, if you want to play with a different breathing technique, take your finger, give yourself a mustache, and just see how gentle you can make the exhale, and just kind of soft and slow and subtle. And it's okay to start to feel that little bit of air hunger as you do that. You don't want it to become stressful. So if it becomes stressful, stop doing it, breathe normal for a few moments, and then try it again. Even if you just get like 2 or 3 breaths at a time doing that soft breathing, it's still going to be super beneficial for you. And then finally, again, do more of what makes you happy. That's honestly probably one of the most simple, basic recommendations I've ever received in my life. And it was from my friend Lynn Christian, who's been my life coach since I think I started working with her in 2005. But one day, she just told me that one of the best things that we can do for ourselves is do more of what's working, or do more of what makes us happy, and do less of the other stuff. And I'm like, that sounds almost too simple to be brilliant, but it really is. It is that simple. Just do more of what brings us peace, what brings us happiness. And because the mind can only focus on one thing at a time, it will get focused in that presence, in that joy, in that peaceful moment. So I hope that for you all that tuned in, thank you guys so much. Thank you all so much for we've just got so many great comments and so much good feedback. And I love when you all are interactive, because it definitely makes me feel like this is an actual interactive experience, not just me talking at a camera. So thank you for always participating with this. And just a reminder, we do have my good friend Sean Float and I, we do have that class coming up that's going to be based in the foundations of functional breathing from the Oxygen Advantage techniques. It's only $75 for 6 90-minute live classes on Zoom. We're going to spread it out over November, December, and January. So you're going to have lots of time to practice the techniques. We're going to get to dive deeply into the different techniques and why they work. You're also going to get some awesome stuff from Sean, from his training in Hatha Yoga to really get yourself grounded. You're going to get some stuff from me on multiple brain integration to get the intelligence of the body more integrated and to tune into the intelligence of the body. So we'd love for you to join us. Like I said, it's only $75 for all 6 sessions. We wanted to make it super, super affordable. So